You are sitting in a room where everyone is talking over each other. Opinions are moving fast. Then, someone asks what you think. You pause. Not because you have nothing to say, but because you are deciding whether the conversation is worth entering at all. And sometimes, when you finally speak, the room becomes quieter. You may not be the loudest person, or the one who naturally draws attention, yet people notice when you are present. Psychology suggests that power is not always expressed through volume. Sometimes it appears through self-regulation, the ability to create a small pause between what happens and how you respond, like a door inside the mind that does not open automatically. 1. You do not feel the need to fill every silence. For some people, silence feels uncomfortable. They joke, explain, or say anything to keep the moment alive. You can let the silence exist. And because you are not rushing to fill it, you often notice what others miss. The hesitation before an answer, the unfinished sentence, the sudden change in someone's tone. Silence gives people room to reveal themselves. Sometimes, the person who speaks less is simply paying closer attention. But that ability becomes even more revealing when emotions rise. 2. You become calmer when other people become louder. Someone raises their voice. The pressure in the room changes. They expect you to react. Instead, you slow down. That does not mean you feel nothing. Your nervous system may be fully awake, but your response does not automatically follow the energy around you. This is emotional regulation. The prefrontal cortex helps create a small space between the emotion you feel and the action you choose. You may not use that space perfectly every time, but when you do, people cannot easily pull you into their emotional momentum, and that often looks like quiet strength. 3. You choose your battles carefully. Not every misunderstanding deserves an explanation. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every attempt to provoke you deserves your attention. This is not indifference. It is an understanding that mental energy is limited. Every argument has a cost, the time you spend in it, and the space it continues to occupy afterward. A quiet but powerful person often develops an internal filter. Not everything gets through. And once you stop reacting to every disturbance, you begin to notice who is actually trying to control your attention. 4. You notice more than people expect. You may not comment on everything, but you see it. The difference between what someone says and what they seem to mean. The subtle shift in a room when one person enters. Human communication happens through far more than words. Social perception is not mind reading, it is pattern recognition. You quietly collect information while others assume you are simply being quiet. Sometimes, people reveal more when they believe no one is paying close attention. But there is another question beneath this ability. Did you always observe this closely, or did life teach you to? 5. Reading people may have become an adaptation. For some people, observation is natural. For others, it develops because paying attention once felt necessary. Maybe you grew up around unpredictable moods. Maybe you learned to sense tension before it became conflict. The brain builds neural pathways around what it repeatedly needs. Over time, observation can become part of your identity. You become the person who notices what others overlook. But there is an important question here. If you stopped watching everyone else for a moment, what might you finally notice about yourself? 6. You do not need everyone to understand you. Constantly explaining yourself can become exhausting. You say something carefully, and someone still interprets it through their own assumptions. Eventually, you realize that understanding cannot always be forced. This requires tolerance for ambiguity, the ability to accept that some people will misunderstand you. A quiet but powerful person can live with that without constantly performing for approval. You stop turning your identity into a public negotiation. And once you no longer need universal approval, leaving certain situations becomes much easier. 7. You can walk away without creating a scene. Not every ending needs a speech. A friendship changes. A workplace becomes draining. A relationship slowly asks you to become someone you are not. And eventually, you understand that explaining your departure will not change the pattern. So you leave, quietly. Attachment can keep people in situations long after they know those situations are hurting them. Walking away is not always dramatic. Sometimes, it is simply choosing not to invest more of yourself in something that keeps taking. The strongest boundary may be the one you no longer feel the need to announce. 8. Your confidence does not always look obvious. You may still question yourself. You may replay conversations or wonder whether you made the right choice. Quiet strength is not the absence of uncertainty. It is the ability to move without waiting for every doubt to disappear. Real confidence does not always say, "I know exactly what I am doing." Sometimes it simply says, "I will figure it out." That kind of confidence becomes more stable because it does not depend on appearing certain all the time. 9. You have a private relationship with yourself. You spend time thinking about your experiences. You question your reactions. You try to understand why something affected you. This can become rumination when it has no direction, but at its healthiest, it becomes self-reflection. You are not only living your life, you are trying to understand the person living it. That creates a kind of inner independence. Your thoughts do not need an audience to exist, and your identity does not disappear when the room becomes empty. 10. Your presence feels stronger because you are not always trying to be noticed. You stop treating attention as proof of value. You can enter a room without performing, speak without overselling yourself, and leave without wondering whether everyone noticed. Over time, your words can carry more weight because you do not say everything. Your reactions can mean more because you do not react to everything. And because you are less dependent on approval or rejection, other people have less power to use those things against you. That is not dominance. It is self-possession. Perhaps that is what a quiet but powerful personality really is. Not someone who controls every room or always knows the perfect thing to say, but someone who has learned that their inner world does not have to react to every noise around them. Silence is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is simply the space where you can finally hear what you actually think.